Real stories with bold creatives. CAPTN OffScript podcast.
Today, I'm joined by a logo designer, educator, and content creator from Australia, James Barnard. Then from the UK, Angela Lyons, founder of Lyons Creative, with more than 20 years of experience. She will be bringing a lot to the table today. Hi, Angela.
Hello.
And also from the UK, another James. I don't know how I will actually be like talking to you two, but we'll figure out something. James Martin, you know him as...
Oi.
Oi. Yeah, we can go with Oi. No worries. So James Martin, designer, author, educator. He's kind of everything, in the design, but I had him in the first season and it was such a pleasure to talk to him. And finally, Jennifer Taback from Canada, co-founder of Design the Plume. I hope I pronounced the name of the brand.
Great job.
Well, great. It's an Indigenous woman-led studio in Canada that blends strategy with storytelling. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Okay, so I don't really want to read your bios for the next 15 minutes, and I think everyone knows you online, all of you, and I believe we should go with something more fun for a start. It's a really heavy topic in front of us. I've invited you for the current state of design industry, but let's start with something more fun and a way for you to introduce yourself in a bit of a different way. So I will go one by one and you can give me a fun fact about you from, if possible, personal life that no one else knows. I will go first so that you have a bit of time to actually think about it. I love sharks. So I'm really obsessed with sharks, like all the movies, all the documentaries, everything you can find about it. I'm into that, which leads me, since we are on the sharks, we can go to the Australia. And James, what's your thing that no one knows about you?
I don't know if no one knows about it. I have run the London Marathon 6 times. 3 times as a pacer, where you hold a little lollipop and you run around and people follow you and try and get in under a time. It's because I used to work for Runner's World magazine. So there you go. Former jogger in a previous life.
Oh my God, that's a huge thing,
Yeah, less of the running these days. I'm patting my belly for those that can't see.
We all are a bit, sitting too much in front of our desks. No worries.
That's right.
So, Jennifer, how about you?
A little known fact, although my employees apparently guessed it in a guessing game, is that I drove city bus, and I was a transit driver throughout college to pay for my design education. So we get city jobs, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm a little bit of a mature student. I'm going to click it. And you know what happens when you take those risks sometimes? It paid double the regular city job. So I made out of college pretty good, and I can drive big vehicles now. So it's always fun.
Oh, that's an amazing thing. Great. Angela?
Oh my gosh, got nothing to do with design. I'm not going to say anything around design. I actually met my husband at a funeral wake.
Okay. I don't know if I should say like, oh, that's amazing, or...
And we're still married 19 years later.
Oh, wow, congrats. That's a huge one. That's a huge one. And finally, Oi.
Oh, I don't know. I share so many things. So I don't run. I haven't died yet, so I haven't been to many funerals. I think I've been sacked a lot. Does that help? Does that count? I've been sacked like 5 or 6 times. I've even lost count. I was expelled from school. I don't know. As much as I love you, Alan, that was an awful question.
Of course, come on, you see what kind of-
This is why he's been sacked. It's comments
Yeah,
like
to be
this.
fair, yeah, maybe that's it. No, I mean, yeah. That's that. Let's just go with that. That's good. That's a good one.
Okay,
What's
no
the
worries.
worst
That's all
reason
you're
you've been
getting.
sacked from a job?
Yeah, I'm just
Come
going to
on.
be sacked from this podcast in a minute, probably.
Yeah, no
Go.
worries. I can always
Mute,
like
mute.
remove you,
Yeah.
so it will be fine. You can continue talking, and I will just like edit you out somehow.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, James, Martin, let's go to another round of my weird questions for the start. 3 things in business that describe you. Not your business, but you.
Oh, 3 words. Contrarian. Curious. That's a bit of a wank one, though, isn't it? It's a bit obvious. And silly.
Okay.
Is that? Did you want me to elaborate? Is that?
No. Did you say the third one? I didn't hear
Oh,
the third
silly.
one.
Sorry, I did say.
Oh, silly. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, of course.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could I miss that?
Yeah.
Angela?
It's not 3 words as such, but I've got a saying that somebody I do a lot of networking. So somebody said about me that my 3 things that I uplift people through creativity and community. So they're my kind of, I suppose, she called them superpowers. So that's my 3 things: uplifting people through creative ways in a community vibe.
That is way more than 3 words. That isn't it?
It was a bit, wasn't it?
It's
But
way more than 3. Yeah.
it's hard.
Jennifer?
3 is hard.
3 is hard, and first James stole all of mine except for being silly, because I'm not silly. So I'm just gonna thesaurus my brain here. So risk taker, I think everyone kind of in design, or because I've run a business, you're always out there doing your own thing. Passionate, I always get excited. I have this, someone counted how many times I used the word excited during a meeting, and it was embarrassing. And a problem solver, we're out there, we're seeing problems and trying to solve them in creative fashion. So those are my 3.
And finally, Mr. Gold Coast.
Yeah, I would go with unpretentious. I hate pretension in graphic design. Short-tempered and alcoholic, something like that. I don't know. I drink too much. Borderline.
That's because you're from the UK, living in Australia.
Yeah. It's the culture here. It's the culture. You have to. It's just all day, every day. Can't get
Is
away.
there some in your coffee right now?
That's why I'm a freelancer, so I can do this whenever I want.
How else can we go through all of the business and everything without it? No worries. I'm drinking water from a beer glass, actually. So we are kind of all there, I guess.
Oh, golly.
So we touched on the business a bit, but let's start. We are all with a lot of experience, and from 15, 20 years, all of us. And when we started, there were no digital-only designs. There were no social media as we know it today. And we started mostly in print and some basic designs, especially I know that for Angela and James Barnard. How would you say that you have changed through these, for example, last 20 years? Since you started, let's start with Angela. You started in print, and James was also working in a magazine. And how did it really change, and how did it evolve, and how it impacted you as a person right now?
Yeah, funny thing is, I still do quite a few print jobs, and I do quite a few magazines. So I do gonna name plug Freelancer magazine, and that's an indie magazine. So I designed that, and that's still going. And again, print is not dead; it's still going. So it's evolved. It's not evolving as much as it used to, obviously, because there's so many things now that people just don't want to spend money on paper. They don't get enough subs. As you said, there's so much social media out there now that people don't really even read newspapers or magazines as much as they used to or consume it. So my role, I suppose my jobs over the years and what clients come to me with has completely changed, like from anything from branding completely. I had to diversify from print design to learn something new completely. Whereas I'd set up magazines from scratch and I'd brand them from scratch, and I thought, I'm just going to transfer this skill into people's businesses. So I'd set up guidelines for them, or I'd create new logos for them, or I'd completely change everything that they needed. So it's that's how I would say I've changed a lot. And when people come to me with new things, it's not just print anymore. It has to be digital. I don't know about you, James. I'm sure you've from Runner's World, which is amazing, by the way. I used to buy that magazine. Again, I used to buy loads of magazines, but it's just like now, it's just like
amazing. Still going strong.
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah. Oh, can I just say, I also did a triathlon. I've done 2 triathlons. That was
oh my god,
very good.
Those are some serious sport people around here. You know, I'm not even close, but congrats. Okay, James, what about you and your experience in magazines, and how did your role evolve over the years?
Well, I was a bit of a unique case, actually, because I was I worked in magazines, but I was a digital designer. So I worked on the online side of all of the publications. But I got to see firsthand how the rise of online affected the print world. Like, there were just waves and waves of redundancies while I was there. The whole teams changed. New people came in and tried to shake things up to try and save what was, unfortunately, a failing industry. The online side of things was picking up, but the online versions of the magazines just weren't fast enough to catch up with the ad sales that the magazine had had for years and years and years. In the sort of late 80s and 90s, there was just this plethora of people who were just raking it in from ad sales in print, and suddenly they couldn't keep up anymore with the new world, and the online wasn't covering the costs of the old print space that was failing. And so I just got to see people getting fired left, right, and center. So it was a really scary time. And gradually, people put in like paywalls on newspaper websites to try and pick up some of that money back and start subscriptions. And that didn't really work either. And then the freemium model came in. It was a whole shake-up. But I was lucky because I was on the online side of things. So I was kind of, I hit the ground running and was at least in the right space. And I learned print afterwards. I got taught by print designers while I was working at those magazines and learned it kind of the wrong way around. So I do know print, but yeah, I still feel like digital is my strong suit, where I got my start.
Okay. And how about you, James, number 2, and Jennifer? How did you start? Was it also something not so digitally, and how did it work at the beginning?
Do you want to go, Jennifer?
Yeah, I can go. So I went to graphic design kind of as a second career after working for a while and not knowing what I was going to do. And I vividly remember in college learning Flash animation. And then there were no jobs.
I know that part so familiar.
Oh, yeah, it's a common story. So we graduated. There's no, there was no jobs. 2009, I graduated. I'm like, well, fuck it. We're just going to start a little studio with a few friends, optimistic as that was. We build this like little agency page. And I swear the week after launch, Apple was like, okay, no, this is like, it's gone now. And I was just so heartbroken. But it was such a valuable lesson because I think for me, it's just seeing all this technology as tools really early on and just not getting in love with any piece of technology. And at first I started as a graphic designer. That's what I'm trained in. And over the years, because I am Indigenous, Anishinaabe, we've been working a lot with Indigenous communities. And I've seen the need for more strategy, more engagement, policy setting, which has really been interesting over the years to see the lens of how communication and creative work is so important to getting those ideas across, advocating for change at a high level. So that's really where our, the staff that we have, they're graphic designers, they're web developers, but we also, in the last 5 years especially, have seen such a huge demand for more insight, which is great, but it also shows me how much work is left to do in that. And it's an interesting crossover to be a creative into like this very intellectual legal policy setting space. So I love it. I think business teaches you, that everything changes all the time and to get really comfortable with it. So
yeah, that's a good one, definitely. So yeah. James?
Yeah, follow that. Yeah, I mean, I'm very much similar to them all, really. I'm not so much print. I've always been more handsy. Not in a creepy way, but I started off as a teacher. Do you know what I mean? So for me, there's always been this element of wanting to share, and from teacher to tattoo artist. Do you know what I mean? When I first got into the design world, it was never my mission to stay in the design world. If I'm totally honest, I just kept on falling forward, and like the alcoholic James, I was also drinking a lot back then as well. I'm 4 years sober now. I'm much better than James now, but James won, obviously. So I'm only messing, obviously. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was less so an evolution of skills, more so an evolution of mindset, I think. I think that's something that is incredibly not necessarily underrated, but I think it's not talked about as much as it should be. Everybody on this call is a creative, and I'm 42. I know James is older than me, and then obviously like other people. I know he's not, but 40s, born in the 1980s. Do you know what I mean? Like creativity was, on the ladder of education, stuffed at the bottom. So no self-worth, hobby. Do it in your spare time. Go and do something else. And the problem is now we've got all these creative, brilliant people sitting on, gold mines with ideas and all the rest of it, who now don't have the confidence to sell themselves, value themselves, because the system has continuously bashed them down. Now bring in social freaking media, and it's the same thing. We've gone from school telling us we're shit. Now we're going on social media. That's telling us we're shit all the time. So I think for me, rather than an evolution of skills, I've just tried to continuously evolve my mindset and try and focus more so on just being enough and understanding what my enough is, because it's very, very distracting out there, and everybody's trying to tell you that you're not enough. So, trying to lean away a little bit from when we talk about jobs versus roles. I thought Angela kind of quite nicely brought that up there a little bit. We've put our value, our self-worth on our job. And at the moment, AI is apparently going to take our job, and so all these designers now think they've got no identity because it's being taken away from them. Where, if we do focus on these roles that we like to play, or a constellation of roles is what I like to call them. Like a job is transactional, but it's also temporary, whereas a role is something that continuously lasts forever, whether you lose your job or not. Your role will continue. So yeah, just kind of working on mindset for me has probably been the thing that has evolved the most, but probably because it's had to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, do you guys actually think that we as designers, and especially the popular ones, let's say it like that, and the ones that have so many followers and that actually have the voice to affect others, do you think that we speak about these things that James mentioned too little? Like about what we actually face behind the screen, and that we are all kind of a bit putting our fake face and maybe the face after 2 beers or whatever online, and just being there so positive, but actually not really helping young designers understand that it's not all flowers and butterflies and everything. Do you think
Can I just jump in there if that's all right? I've been this year I started mentoring at the London College of Communication in Elephant Castle, and it's my first time being a mentor, and I was given obviously one student, a mentee, and it was really interesting because I think she thought that everyone was really, I don't know, she was scared to put herself out there. That was my thing that I took away from her. And I just said, be yourself, try and be yourself. And I think that is one thing that students or younger designers don't like doing, especially as they're trying to get work, but they don't know how to have that confidence. They say, oh, this person's doing so well out there. But I said, but that's not the truth all the time. Just you've got to, don't see that all the time as being what they are 100%, because they're not. They're showing you, sometimes people just want to show you positivity online. Not just about, smashing it. They want to be uplifting. I want to be uplifting. I don't want to show people my sad face. Of course, if I've had rejection, I will tell people I've got rejection, but I'm not going to put my absolute sad face on, because I don't want to show that as part of my, part of my brand. But also, I'm trying to be as positive as I can, but be truthful too. That's what I'd like to say. Yeah.
Can I jump in there, Alan? So,
of course.
Well, as someone who posts a lot on social media, I've kind of tried it all, and I've tried, just showing the good side of the business. I've tried all sorts of different forms of content. The ones that perform the best are the ones where you are really honest. And if it's, let's say I design a logo project, I show parts of the project that went wrong. So how I made a mistake in the brief. I didn't listen to the client well enough. But the important thing about the end result of something like a video is that you show how you solved that problem and got to a good result in the end. So yeah, people like to just share the best parts of their lives on social media. And I get that, you don't want to share like your failures all the time. But I found that when you do show behind the scenes and you show a bit of transparency and you show the parts of the process where you didn't quite get it right, but then how you solve that problem, those do so well. People really appreciate the transparency. And let's be honest, like if you can't be yourself on camera and you try and maintain this like persona of just like fakeness, it just doesn't last. You can't do it. It's not a sustainable way to present yourself online. You have to be who you are. Otherwise it'll be exhausting trying to be just, this fake personality.
It'd be totally, sorry to interrupt, it'd be totally exhausting also when people meet you in real life. They'll be like, oh, that's not it.
Yeah. I've met my fair share of like design influencers, right? I've been to conferences and stuff, and the ones who are successful, they are just like they are on camera. They're exactly the same person when you meet them. There's one or two who are like a bit Hollywood and don't really talk to you, and then some are really introverted. And
which one's a Hollywood, James?
I'm not telling you. It's me.
Get some inside goss here.
If I could jump in quickly before Jennifer. I mean, I think this is spot on, like what Angela and James said. But this is why I have such an issue with personal branding, and especially when the word authentic is put in front of personal branding, because authentic, I know, is such a jazzy word, isn't it? And I don't think it's meant and used in the wrong way or with the wrong means. But I think when somebody talks about authentic personal branding, it's either, for me, that they don't understand what branding is, or they don't really understand what the word authentic is, because you can't have an authentic brand, or truly authentic brand. You can have an aligned brand, but you can't have an authentic brand. Because for example, if we were all authentic ourselves all the time, even on the bad days, the grotty days, and we showed up, we'd all get cancelled tomorrow. So there has to be some sense of there's self-sabotage, and there's do you know what I mean? So this is why authentic personal branding, because when you think about branding, or when I think about branding, do you know what I mean? It's, I don't like to use the word manufactured, but it is manufactured. It's generally manufactured for commercial use. Do you know what I mean? And that is usually to make money. Do you know what I mean? So when you put authenticity, raw authenticity with something that's manufactured, you can't, and this is why the personal brand thing's tough, because you can't truly be authentic when you're trying to manufacture a brand. Do you know what I mean? So that is just something I wanted to add there. I could go on for hours, but Jennifer's probably got something way more interesting to say.
We have other people here,
Yeah. No, the thoughts are amazing, and I'm just trying to connect them all. So I was thinking those are perfect articulations, and I think my addition to it is saying, personally, and let's say professionally, I have always been an introvert, and it's always been hard for me it's not hard to do it for clients, but I find for us, it always feels very self-serving. And I've always been the little bit of the, people are like, why are you not posting on Instagram or anything, and I'm pushing that. And I think that's a good distinction, right? Is that personal brand. When someone meets me in person, like Angela said, like they will see that it's the authentic message through my company. But what the company pushes out, it already has to deal with a few challenges. We're already pushing boundaries. There's a lot of trauma in that space already. And I think there is that fine line of, how are we showing solutions in a good, optimistic way and show thriving in a community that hasn't been able to thrive in centuries? So that's a unique challenge for, the social space that we kind of inhabit. And it's been exciting over the last little bit because we're trying to push that in that way to how do we make it feel more authentic, more like me, my co-CEO, like the work that our team is doing. And I would never want someone to feel like if they met me, they'd be like, oh, damn, that's not, that's not what I think. And it is resonating because I think you have to have that, people do want to see you. They want to hear you talk off the cuff. So I think it's important. And one last comment is like, I would be the person, I would love to have one of the AI people to just, if it could message for me and do these things, great. But I don't think it'll ever get those, intricacies and the ability to think or riff off, kind of these conversations either, which is maybe slightly disappointing to an introvert, but probably better for human society overall.
Well, I will just add up to that introvert thing. It's so weird since I have a podcast, but until last year, I didn't show my face online on my business page and everything ever. Like no one knew what do I look like. And it was really scary for me. But then I did a podcast, and even now I still it's one of the hardest things to do, just show up and actually be here and honestly talk to you guys. It's so scary for me. I just looked at my watch and my heart is like 136 beats per minute. So yeah, that's the introvert kind of a thing. But
it does get exciting when you show up though, right? Because that's how I feel. I'm like, hey, I'm here.
It is
good.
exciting. It's absolutely, yeah. Yes. But what I've learned from that is that actually we need to show up. And I've talked to so many people in the first season, and it was really, really eye-opening for me because the people that actually got, we say the more popular and that have the most followers, they actually seem to be the most down-to-earth people, like James. He was like, it was such an eye-opening episode we had, and for me it was amazing. And to actually see who you are and who the people behind all these reels and podcasts and whatever, who we really are. So that's really amazing for me. But it also, so to continue our conversation further, it also showed me that we are kind of, it's weird to say the word for people, but as designers in our work field, we are kind of hybrids. We do so many different things. We started as designers or in print or maybe started our small business just to do logo design. And James, you branded yourself as a logo designer for so long, but you do so many different things. Do you actually think that is the only way we can actually go forward as well? To do a lot of different things until we complete this bubble of who we are?
You're going to have to refer to us by our last names because I have no idea which James you're talking
James
to.
James and Logo was a tough. I was looking to see who flinched. I'll take it though. I'll take it if you want.
Go on then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been a believer in fuck the niche. Do you know what I mean? I've always thought I was the niche. I like people talk about how individually we are all so incredibly unique, yet everybody's trying to be exactly like everybody else, when this is really there's nobody else that could do this the way I could do it. Do you know what I mean? It would be impossible for them. They wouldn't even want it. But I think my point is that, like a lot, especially when people like also when I talk to a lot of people like Angela, I mentor a few people, and they always think they need to change to become the next thing, when really what they need to do is carry what they know into the next thing. They sometimes think they've got to stop dead and then change, stop dead and then change, rather than continuously evolve, like every brand is supposed to do. Do you know what I mean? A brand is never done, essentially. So, for me, I actually believe the superpower, again, I keep quoting Angela here, is this ability to, we talk about like the obvious things like connecting dots and stuff like that, which is what creativity is. And I personally have found great power in bringing in my kind of tattoo culture illustrative approach into the brand world, along with my idea liberation brain and my slightly contrarian brain and my slightly rebellious brain and the guy who got kicked out of school. Do you know what I mean? All of this follows me, and it's not something that I'll lie. Like for a long time, I drunk myself into a stupor and did too many drugs. But I started to like myself a little bit more, and I realized that those are the things that nobody can replicate. Do you know what I mean? And when we talk about AI and all of these things, God, it would I'll keep going. I'll go back to school very quickly. Like, isn't it funny how maths, science, and all of those things that were kind of put to the top of the pile are the easiest things to replicate now? Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all been put through a system that's absolutely fucked us. Do you know what I mean? So my point is that this creative brain now is incredibly powerful, which is why they want to copy it. Do you know what I mean? But this is why curating your taste and continuously growing and, keeping working on your creativity, I think is the key to success for all creative people moving forward. So yeah, sorry, I babbled a little bit there, but yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
It's all good. We are used by now. No worries.
Fuck you, Alan.
That's funny. No.
Oh my God, he's made it for half an hour and he hasn't sworn. That was the first.
I know. I thought you might tell me off, Angela.
Yeah. So 51st episode and I'm told fuck off. It's okay. It's by a great person, so I'm not offended. No worries. Yeah. So anyone want to jump in on this, or do I take?
Can I talk a little bit about the niche? So I kind of agree with James, and I kind of don't on the niche. I do think like once you've hit a certain point in your career, niching is so powerful. It certainly worked for me. But what I really worry about is young designers coming out of school or learning online and trying to niche like 1 or 2 years into a career before they've all figured out which part of the industry they actually enjoy the most. And for me, at least, the logo design side of things is a niche, but it actually is kind of like the gateway into getting a client to find you. Once you've got them in, then you can provide all the other services that you learn over a huge career. So, niching when you don't know what when you haven't sort of tested all of the different aspects of design. Like I've done print, I've done flash animation, I've done email newsletters, display advertising, you name it, I've done it. And I've just figured out over a career that logo design happens to be the part of the industry that I enjoy the most and I get the most from. But having done that, all those other bits and pieces, now that when I get a client in via logo design, I can upsell them on all sorts of other services because I've got the skills to do it because of a career behind me of all the different pieces of the industry that I've experienced. So yeah, niching is great. Just don't do it too soon, I reckon.
Well, I definitely agree on that one if I can.
Yeah.
Sorry, Angela.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I do type design almost exclusively right now, apart from the podcast, but as a job, it's just a type designer. But I also started with Flash websites, Adobe. Then we went to WordPress, and you did like themes and templates, and then you do logo design, branding design, so many different industries. And it took me like 10, 12 years to actually figure out where I find myself the most. Because for me, you guys are amazing. I always say that to people who work with clients, because for me, that's a really, really hard part. And I found that I work the best if I'm just alone with my own thoughts and drawing letters for myself. And, you know, if people like it, that's good. If they don't, that's good as well. I did what I could. But definitely niching down as soon as you start working, like in the first 2 years, you say like, I don't know, I'm doing just logo design for wedding photographers, and that's kind of too soon, too much, just too much. Definitely agree on that one with you too. Angela, you wanted to jump in as well.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just adding on from everyone really. I think niching is sometimes a luxury that you can't really, some people can't afford to do that. You can't, if you want to niche into a certain area and that's what clients not coming to you for that or about that, what you do, sometimes you have to diversify into something else. So it is a bit of a luxury to say that you niche and no one's actually paid you for it. So you're right, it's best to diversify, especially if coming out into the industry. And especially with the students I've been mentoring, I try and tell them, try and do something else, try and learn something else. I love to, as I said, I love designing magazines when I first started, but obviously I can't do that for the rest of my life because no one's going to pay me to do that all the time because there's not so many magazines out there. So yeah, that was my point. It was just saying that sometimes niching is a bit of a luxury that we cannot afford. So think about other things to add to your skill sets.
And I think I like the conversation as well with both Jameses, is the idea of that we start our career kind of this very broad, and we might have an idea, like I thought I would go to Toronto, be corporate, be in a studio, and then, you know, recession hit and there were absolutely no jobs. So I would not be here if it wasn't for that, you know, and kind of that, you know, studio owning position. But I think it's really interesting because for me, the niching has happened over the years as an identification of problems that no one else is solving, both as a business mind to say, I can make money by serving First Nations, by governments that serve that, community organizations, etc. And it's naturally led me to kind of say, okay, you know, we're good with all the tools we have. I kind of, you know, and hopefully most designers I think are very good at learning quickly, whether the software is changing, but it's our perspective perhaps that we niche into, is getting more confident in saying, this is how, you know, my view of the world or my view of the problem. And I always say designers, or especially myself, I'm just a translator, right? The client has a message. I got to get it to a certain person that they're identified or they need help identifying. We have the skill set to do that. So the niche is really in how you're articulating and translating their language for us. And that's different for each designer, for each communicator. So that over the years, I've definitely gotten more confident in saying, you know, my niche is my perspective and my lived experience and understanding of the you know, challenges. And it's been interesting because we started, let's say, with like, you know, kind of government contracts, education, and lately we've been doing manufacturing jobs. Like I never would have said, if someone wants to build a table or carpet design with Indigenous perspectives, I was literally like, holy shit, like, why are they coming to us? And when you look at the problem, I'm like, well, no one's serving that need. And I have the right niche, even though I've never, you know, we just toured a carpet factory and I was just like, oh my goodness, like this is so cool. So I think it's also that kind of niche that happens as you age, as you do get a hopefully experience a ton of different types of design, you know, logo design, print design, VR design, all these kind of things that happen through a career as well.
Oh, that's really good perspective there. I love that. And before we like circle around the first part of this, I would just like, for me, I've noticed a lot of designers, actually new designers online, like saying, complaining about how clients actually want them to do so many different things. Do you guys think that we actually need to know all of those things? For example, I don't know, James from Gold Coast, you do logo, but do you also do animation, or you have someone who you outsource it to? Because that's also an important part of that job. And also, Angela, for you, and how do you guys think that we need to approach the young designers right now that are actually like, they just want to design one thing? And there is like a whole spectrum of things that we as graphic designers, after 20 years, we actually do all of that. So how do we convey that message to the audience?
I'll jump in if that's okay. I'll be quick though, Angela. Don't tell me off right. I'm not being quick at all, am I? No, I think I think there's again like mindset. I think, hey, look, like we grew up in a world without social media. Let's remember that, and now we're in a world with social media. But most of us had 10 years in the industry before that maybe even kind of happened. And I think everybody wants to be something incredibly quickly now because they think when they get to 25 and they haven't made it, they're a failure because they're being told that that's the case. Whereas I was always taught that my career is 40 years. If, that's what I've got to try and do. So I go into my everyday with that mindset. And that mindset is to kind of get better every single day or slightly less shit every single day. Whereas that if it doesn't work within 6 months, they change it. And it doesn't, and that is like an overgeneralization, I must admit. But the young designers I've spoken to are so desperate to climb the ladder, even though there isn't much of a ladder anymore because a freelancer can make 3 times a CEO now. Do you know what I mean? So that world's gone, that system's gone, that ladder's gone. But I think my point there was kind of more about this patience thing. I think I think what I would say to young designers is you have way more time than you think you do. I know tech's moving quick, but it always has. Like even over our 20 years, it's moved a long way. But we're still here. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something that I would love for more young people to understand is that you don't have to be listening to all these twats online who are telling you that you're not making enough money at the age of 20 because it's bollocks. And like Angela said, it's all posturing. Do you know what I mean? Like behind closed doors, they might be killing kittens and like crying themselves to sleep. Like you just have no idea. Do you know what I mean? Because they're only showing you the things that they want to show you, which are mostly lies. Do you know what I mean? So there you go.
Social media has this way of just like amplifying what like successful people have done, like the top 1 or 2% of our industry, like those freelancers who make the same as CEOs. Obviously, social media will push that narrative, so they can sell you their courses or whatever. It's just not the case for 90% of designers out there. If they try and do that, if they go freelance straight out of school or the first thing, they don't get the opportunity to learn from other people. Like I'd learned the most amount I ever learned was sitting next to another designer in an office job, learning from people on the job. That's free education. In fact, it's not free. You're getting paid to be educated. If you have a job, you're sitting next to other designers, learning from people in a team, learning how like an agency works and how they speak to clients, how they sell their services to, people who are paying for them. It's free education and it's so valuable. And I feel really sorry for people who they dive into, like a freelance position. Not only is it quite a lonely affair, but also you just don't learn as much as you would had you taken on another job. I know it's not easy for everybody to find work at the moment, and it's easier said than done. But I can't recommend enough, if you can, just go to work at an agency for a couple of years, or move around to different industries and figure out which industries you enjoy the most. Because if you go freelance and you niche into an industry, you'll also find out that you probably get a bit bored of that industry quite quickly. It's the same style work over and over again. It's tricky. You just got to kind of experience as much as you can, as early as you can.
It's interesting what you said about going into agencies, but also just going into different environments, like offices, corporate worlds. I mean, that is a really good experience to get to see how things are done and how different departments are working. And especially, I think people think because it's design, it's not going to be creative. But I know that I've worked in corporate businesses, and you meet people there. They're great people. It's not all going to be stuffy and it's not going to be boring. But I do want to say something about when you see these people advertising these jobs, especially on LinkedIn, especially for the amount they're paying, and they want this whole list of requirements. What is that about? what you have to be a graphic designer, and you have to be not just any graphic designer, you have to be an animator, you have to do presentations, and then you might have to do some copywriting, and then you might have to update the website, and then you might need to know a bit of HTML. I'm like, how can they expect all these people that have just graduated to know all these things? It's just a bit crazy. So I think the industry also needs to maybe, I suppose they want to get as much as they can for their money out of that one person. But sometimes I see these roles and I think that is not one person's job. How can they possibly want that? But hey, hey.
Yeah, and I'll add, because I'm one of those people who, like, I can get hyper fixated on anything for a while. After Flash fell apart, I was the developer, and 15 years ago that was so much of a different world than it is now. So I'm glad I dropped that. But kind of when we got a little bit bigger, I was the first business partner that said, I don't think I can do design anymore. We need someone full-time in sales, in finance, in HR. Like, we need to get these processes started, and who's teaching, our new employees some of these skills. So, how did we divide that role? I've always had a few partners kind of at that level, which has been, oh my goodness, so, so rewarding for me. But it was really hard. And I think, first of all, play into your strengths. I'm a quick learner with kind of any technology, so happy to adopt it, not scared of it. So how do I push it to get enough to know what I need to know? So like Angela said, is HTML, can I learn CSS after? I say yes. I'm one of those people who says, I'm not afraid of I know 50% of the job description, let's apply and fake it till you make it. Which a lot of demographics of job applicants, don't have that confidence to do. But I also think, like James said, it's opportunity. So when I saw that there was an opportunity for me not to do anything anymore, that we could hire a programmer, that was the first person we hired, which was so great for me, because I was like, I like programming, but someone could do it better than me, right? And I think that's a smart thing as a designer, or building our teams. If you have an agency, is saying, what do I love to do? What is, what gives me energy? What makes me money? And then if there's something I don't like, I hire somebody or find, a partner or freelancer to work with us as well. So, but sometimes there's just opportunities to sit down. They could be with clients. I've learned so much sitting in rooms with them saying, hey, and learning about their processes and how to integrate that as a designer, kind of like a sponge, So look at that. It might be an office setting. It might be your clients. There's a lot of opportunity because there's an endless amount of things you can learn, and you don't have to learn them all. Pick a few that you like. Drop them when they get boring and find something else. But there'll always be, something new to be learning. I have discovered forever and ever.
Always. So true.
Real stories with bold creatives. Captain OffScript podcast.